According to the history, Saint Christopher was a Christian martyr killed in the 3rd century under the reign of a Roman emperor. Saint Christopher was born in the land of Cana. Many accounts claim that Saint Christopher's original name was Reprobus, which means outcast. Reprobus was a giant. He was 7.5 feet tall with immense strength. He was a very big, very strong, and very ambitious person. His ambition was to serve the greatest king in the world. As he was searching for the greatest king to serve, he soon encountered the king of Cana. He offered to be of service to the king, who was known far and wide to be one of the most virtuous leaders in the land. The king had accepted him and kept him close to his courts at all times. One day, a medieval singer came to Cana to meet the king. He sang many ballads for the nobles. Among them, he sang a poem acknowledging the power of Satan. As Reprobus watched, the king blessed himself, making the sign of the cross over his body at the very mention of Satan's name. When he asked the king why he did this, the king replied that making the sign of the cross eliminated Satan's power against him. This made Reprobus to lose desire to work for the king. As we know, his ambition is to work for the strongest king. Reprobus thought that if the king feared the power of Satan, then surely Satan must be more dominant than human rulers. He left the court to set off on his new master. Not too far into his journey, Reprobus met a group of wild men in the forest, and he came to know that these figures were actually Satan and his soldiers. Reprobus bravely approached them and explained that he wanted to serve them. He was accepted and soon joined forces, and he believed the Satan to be the mightiest power on earth. However, it didn't take long time for him to see the reality. One day, as Reprobus was traveling with Satan, they came across a crucifix. Satan immediately fled and began to hide from the cross and went the other way. Reprobus asked Satan why had the symbol of the cross frightened him and caused him to run away, and Satan explained him that it represented his greatest enemy and that he would always flee from Christ. Reprobus understood that Satan fears Christ. Once again, Reprobus picked up things and began to wander. Soon he came to a hut in the middle of the woods. He there found an old man sitting by the door, and he stayed there to learn his story. The old man explained that he was a hermit who had left the comforts of the world for a life of solitude where he could serve Christ intentionally. Upon hearing this, Reprobus finally realized he'd found what he had been seeking, the strongest and mightiest force in the world. Reprobus asked the hermit how he could best serve God, who had become his new master. If Christ is the Lord of creation and also served me by dying to save me from sin, what can I possibly do to serve him? You can fast and pray, as I do, replied the hermit. I am not fitted for those things, said Reprobus, who knew himself well. Then you can serve by helping others. Many people drown trying to cross the river that you see down there. But you are big enough and strong enough to carry them over on your shoulders. Do that. Will Christ come down now and then to pat me on the back the way the great king and the devil used to? Asked Reprobus. Maybe, said the hermit. So Reprobus built a shelter on the river bank, cut himself a staff for wading, and carried people over the river. He did it never refusing even when it was past midnight, or when the people were fat or dirty or covered with sores, or even when they were so ungracious as to make bad jokes about this person. But Reprobus was very happy in this humble work. One day, a child appeared and asked to be taken across. Where is your mother? Asked Reprobus. My mother is in heaven, said the child. Reprobus then picked up the child and found out that he was heavier than he looked. He grew heavier and heavier as the water grew deeper and deeper, and just in the most dangerous part, Reprobus began to fear that he might sink. Why are you so heavy? Said Reprobus, and the child answered, so that you will know who it is you have chosen to serve. I am Christ, burdened with sins of the whole world. Bear me up now, and on the other side you will be freed from this terrible weight. So, summoning all his strength, Reprobus bore the child up. And sure enough, when he came to the other side, the weight was gone, and Reprobus felt light with joy. And the child Jesus declared that from that point onwards, Reprobus's name would be Christopher, which means Christ bearer. Then Christopher, when stuck his staff in the ground, blossoms and leaves sprung up in the spot from the staff, and Christopher kneeled to kiss them. Though he had been a devoted follower before, he was now in the full service of Christ. He became an enthusiastic preacher of the gospel and led many to the faith. In his missionary travels, St. Christopher came to the region of Lycia, where St. Christopher was beheaded.